Good evening, everyone, and happy Tuesday, happy Learning Live Tuesday. We already have some eyeballs on, which is wonderful. Hello, Debbie and Jan, who are joining in the comments. If you are also joining in, please just drop a hello in the comments. We are here with Crafty Kris, and I've gotten a sneak peek of kind of what she's planned for tonight, and you guys are in for a treat. So, first off, we know lots of you guys love Tim Holtz, and he has come out with some pretty new, pretty unique, well, maybe not unique, but he's put his Tim spin on some stuff new for him. And that is these cards and journal pieces and that kind of thing. So Kris is going to be playing with the File Cards 2 set. And then, because we are wrapping up our Christmas in June sale for the month of June. Can you believe that it's almost the end of June? But she's gonna Christmasify it, and she's gonna use Simple Stories Boho Christmas. So you guys can get inspired, and if you jump on things right away, Christmas is on sale for 40% off until the end of this week. So go and grab it while you can. And without further ado, because I am, of course, using up all the time talking, I'm going to just turn it over to Kris, and she is going to give you a better idea of what she's planning tonight. So, Kris, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So we're making a little Christmas folio. The thing that I'm finding impressive about these little bits and pieces that create albums from the Tim Holtz line is the number of photos you can actually get on these pages. So that's always a big inspiration for me, is how many photos can I stick in a little mini album. So yes, I'm working with Boho. And if you looked at the sort of write-up that we had earlier, I had made an error. I said 6x6 pad. It's actually a 6x8 pad. I know that's going to maybe throw some of you off. If not, don't worry about it, because this video will be available for you once you have an opportunity to find a 6x8 pad. But this particular folio will not work with a 6x6 unless you do each individual side on their own. I'm doing two sides on together to make this kind of happen. All right, so we have the boho pack. I'm only using 11 of the items in this package. There are 12 items, and 11, am I right? No, I'm using 10 items. And two of the items that I'm not using are two of the flip flaps. I've got one included, but if you put all three in there, it's just way too thick. So you can make those into little mini albums to slot into other projects. So we have 10 items that we're using. We're using our boho 6x8 pad. I'm just going to move a few things around. And I've got a card that came in with some paper pack. And that's all I'm using for my cutting down of my album cover. And I think I did send the album cover information so that you could have it prepped. I believe that I asked you to do the front and back cover. I know, isn't it the cutest size? And the spine. Now, I have already done all the detail on the spine. This is the stuff that's going to make you crazy. So if you get to this point when we're building and you've decided that this is just too much for you, that's okay. Take your time by watching the replay. Don't try to do this if it's going to be overwhelming on a Tuesday night after work. All the information will be here for you, so you don't need to worry about it. I also sent that I had picked three particular pieces in my collection, two of which I've asked you to fussy cut into little bits of decoration. We may or may not get to that tonight. Don't worry about it. It will be in a finished video that I'll post on the group. And then I sent you a picture of a second piece to fussy cut. And there is a third piece, but we may not get that far because those are the large pieces, which I will inform you about tomorrow if need be. So there's our little presents all pre-cut and our poinsettias pre-cut. So what I want to do is I want to grab paper to create the album. Now, some of you may have the bookmaking tool from We Are, and I love it. I use it all the time. It's not that you can't do it without it. It's just that when you have it, it's so much easier to do. You don't have to think so much. So I'm going to be using that tonight, but I will be telling you as I go what you can actually do without it. So our 3 pieces of pre-cut paper will have been taken out, and I have taken other little bits of paper out, but don't worry about it because you're going to be following along with me anyway. One of the things I want to point out is that this pack is very vertical, which doesn't really work unless you're doing things separately. So we're going to look for the back sides mostly. And for this particular project, I am going to use the back side of the green tartan. I guess I will call it a tartan. And this is just, we're going to end up getting right to the very end of our paper in order to allow us a little bit of play in the fold area. So I'm not going to fold over like I normally do, where I cut across the corner and then fold these pieces in and fold the ends over. We're just going to glue straight down right to the very edge. And we're going to keep it sort of centered on the page. So my first thing to put down is one side of it. And because this back side is not directional, I'm not going to have to worry about what way I have it up. So I'm just going to take my glue, making sure that I get in those corners and along the edge and across the bottom here. And then just kind of wobbly bits in there. I make up words as I go. And I'm going to turn this vertical so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'm going to give myself just a little bit of play on the end. And I'm eyeballing. Yep, eyeballing. So I've got like a smidge over. I'll show you what that smidge looks like. Do you see that smidge? That's all I'm giving it extra. So we're cutting right up to the edge. Now, this is where the tool comes in very handy. I want to leave myself 1/8 of an inch distance between my spine and making sure that I can get this all in. Ooh, it's going to be tight. So I think I won't use the tool today. But that would have been what I would have done to give a good distance. But I'm going to have to tighten it up just a little bit. So rather than my usual 1/8 of an inch, let's see how this goes. I will probably do it just slightly under. And I do have a ruler somewhere. I know I do because I pulled it out. Oh, there it is. Oh, more flowers. Okay, so I'm measuring that distance to be, actually is 1/8. So I'm giving it 1/8. This I guess is just slightly larger than 1/8. But because this book is so small, I don't think it'll be a problem. So I'm going to glue the spine down to the book. And you'll see I've already put holes and things, but that's for my reference. Don't you worry about that. You won't have any marks yet. So I'm going to give myself that 1/8 of an inch. Again, I'm going to go right to the edges, scribble in the middles. Okay. And I'm going to line it up with that 1/8 of an inch. Whoops, let me move into the screen a little bit more. And I want to make sure it's going to be lined up on the bottom as well. So I just use my ruler for that. There we go. Okay. And then this piece is going to get lined up right to the other edge. So we'll just do our gluing along the edges again, making sure our points get some glue in them. Points being the corners. Should use the technical terms. Oops. There we go. And using my ruler again, just to make sure everything lines up. I'm going to put that right at the edge. And just a smooch in, like I did on the other side. All right. And there is my cover at this point. So I need to take off the corner edges. And I can still use this tool to do it, or I can use a ruler to do it. And I like to draw a line. I don't cut using my tool because I don't want to wreck my tool. So I'm literally just going to take my pencil and draw a corner. And or I could have used my ruler and done the same thing. I'm noticing that I think that I want to get closer. This is going to be hanging over. So this tool just isn't the right tool for the job. And this is, I guess, what we learn as we do all these wonderful things. So I'm just going to go right from the corner, and I am going to draw my line. I'm going to ignore that one.
Kris, sorry if I can interrupt you.
Sure.
I know you've put the tool away, but Kathy was asking what is the name of the tool?
Okay, so that because it's not written on it and I don't remember. I think it's the We Are book tool.
Yeah, it's either the book tool or the book binding tool.
Yes.
Okay. Kathy, I will do some digging and I'll put it back in the comments for you as well as we go along.
Thank you.
Oh, Ellen is saying it's the book cover guide tool.
Wow, so way too many words.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, so I'm cutting those corners. And I would normally also do those in this section too, but because I've got one piece of paper, I'm just going to do little lines, just slightly curved. I'll show you when I've finished doing them so you can see what I mean. So we've got these little lines just slightly curved. It doesn't matter if they're even or not because we're going to put a piece of paper on this side anyway, but you just don't want them to go absolutely straight up from the corner because then you end up getting very bulky corners. And that's kind of why we cut away at the corners on each side. So again, just literally doing sketchy marks. Okay, then I get my scissors. I didn't put scissors on the list. I'm hoping that you have them handy. And I'm just going to trim those off and cut down. And these will stay for a minute until I trim it down. These guys come off right away, except I should probably do it this. I'll do it this way. There we go. That's why you need the lines. So you can. Yep. I'm not even following my lines at this point, but it's good to have them there, just in case you forget what you're doing. There we go. And trim that off. All righty. So in effect now, not in effect, but in reality, I'm going to be turning all of these sides over and gluing them down. This one I'm going to trim because I don't want it to go over where I'm going to. So I'm going to trim it so that it's less than a 1/2 inch. And I'm literally just doing that. I'm cutting it off. So because I have a 1/2 inch measure when we get to doing the spine. I'm going to fold that over. I'm going to fold that over. And the centerpiece again, shortening that to about a 1/2 inch. Whoops. Or less than a 1/2 inch. All right. Okay, now these little guys, I'm just going to trim. And I'm not going to worry whether they're straight or not right now, because when I do the finishing, I'll pay more attention. But right now, I just want to get everything glued down and the cover made. So literally just making sure those edges and corners are getting some glue on them. Quick dry glue is the way to go for this project, because otherwise you have to wait too long. You don't want that nice thick stuff that takes forever to dry. You want the quick dry glue. My favorite being art glitter, but there's other ones. There's Bear that is pretty quick dry. Nouveau, which is a little longer, I have found, but pretty quick dry. The thinner the glue, the drier, the quicker it dries. It's basically the theory. Okay. All right. Get those corners. All right. And there you have your cover. Now, I'm leaving that little edge there. I'm not trimming it because I want it to sort of hide the brown on the inside here. I could color the brown edge using a marker. That would be perfectly acceptable. Okay, so there is our little cover ready to go. Now, the spine is going to be lines every 1/16 of an inch. So basically what I did, and this is where I'm going to lose a lot of you, I just know it, just because it's a pain to do. Literally, I started at at 0, and every 1/16 of an inch, I just put a dot across the top and across the bottom, and then I joined all of those lines, okay, all the way down. So I ended up having 11 lines. I'm only going to use 10 of the 11, but I wanted the extra space because I have that thick piece, that one thick folio that we're going to be putting in that center space and actually sewing it in the center space. So it needs a little more room. So I want you to ignore this because that's going to take you time. I want to get the other stuff prepped and ready to sew in so that when you have the time to get the lines in and poke the holes. So what I've done here, I'll just write a few things here. Nope, wrong end. So this, oh my goodness, I got too many lids on my thing. So for the cover, I had asked you to make 2 4 3/8 by 3 3/8 pieces, and 1 7/8. Oh, I should have done that the other way, by 4 3/8. Sorry, that's I've got them curved around. But the length, the 4 3/8 is the same for all 3 pieces. And that's for the covers. Now, we do have some standard measurements for all the stuff that goes inside. So we're just going to put this away for a moment, and we're going to prep all of our inner pages. The sewing of them is the same no matter what piece you get. They're all going to be sewn the same way. So the first thing we want to do is grab some papers that are not vertical in nature. This is vertical, but the back side isn't. So the back side of this would be good. This is horizontal. Sorry, I'm mixing up my formats here. So these guys are vertical, like they look at you in a vertical manner. So if we put this on one of these pages that goes in here, they would be sideways. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. So the back on that one is good, and it's the same with this one. If I took this one and I put it sideways because I need the width, it would be it would end up sideways. So any of those that have a pattern that has a direction where you look at it, I guess it's more horizontal, not vertical. In a horizontal way, those ones you want to use the back. Okay, this one's an all over pattern, so that would be fine. So we're going to pull out a couple of patterns that we like, and I'm going to show you the very first most difficult one, which is our center fold. Okay, this one has a very particular way to be. So the first thing we're going to start with is the center section here. This is going to be sewn into your book this way, right in the middle, taking up that extra space. Okay, but we need to put the cover on it first before we sew it in, and then we also need to do the sides. So this one is our first one that we are going to put in. So I've taken a number of papers. So here, this one was a vertical or a horizontal reed, right? So I couldn't use it this way. So I simply use the other side. Okay. So I cut this piece. Let me write that down. I cut this piece. I left it 8 inches, and I cut the width. So this is for I'm going to call this the accordion. And it is 4 1/16 wide. And I left that at 8. I'm pretty sure this is 8. Sorry. Let me just get 6, 7, 8. And I left it at 8 inches long. Okay, that's one side. Then I found the Santa paper. Okay, like I had showed you before. So in its entirety, the Santa paper is like this. Whoa. Not with something stuck to it, is like this in your book. Okay, the back side of the Santa paper is like this, and you're going to again cut 4 1/16 by 8. So you leave the length that it is and cut a strip that is 4 1/16. So that goes here, that goes here, and then we need just a little piece in the center. And I took this off the other Santa, and the back of it has the green, and this piece is the center that goes here, that is going to get sewn into the book, and I'll show you how it all goes together in a moment. And it measures, there's my little sticky note, it measures 4 1/16 by 6 3/16. Weird measurements, I know, but in order to cover it, we have to make sure we have it correct. So these are the sides, and this is the center back. I'm going to call that. All right. I'll try to keep that clear. So the first piece I'm going to glue on is the piece that is 4 1/16 by 3/16. And I'm going to put that, I'm just going to put that right onto the fold. So if you open up your accordion so that you have one fold in the center back, we're going to glue these this piece on either side of that fold. All right. So we just need to make sure that we get this all gummied up with glue. And when we glue it, we're going to glue it so that it's folded. So we make sure that there's enough space for the fold. So I folded this in half. Now I'm going to slip that folded in half right on top of the fold. Make sure that I've got everything lined up before it dries, because it's quick dry glue. Okay. There we go. All right. And that piece is now attached to my back. Then I folded this piece. I put it horizontally, and I folded the first piece at, I didn't write that down. Okay, so ruler. So the first fold is at 3 inches. The second fold is at 3 inches. And then the remainder ends up being, looks like 1 and just a little over 7/8. And then we're going to take those folds. They're all folded in the same direction, so that what we want to see is on the outside. Okay. We're going to start by gluing this down, and we're going to have to leave a space for the fold that's here. So we want to make sure that when we're actually gluing it, we've got this back folded so that when we open it, you can see there's a space for the fold. So show you how to do that. This is the hardest one. It gets super easy from here. So now I'm going to slip this in, line it up with the bottom paper, but I'm going to make sure that I put it in the fold. Okay. Now, these are not all folded exactly perfectly. So you may have some places where there's a little extra paper. You can trim that off afterwards. You just want to make sure that when you're laying all the rest of the paper down, it's covering from top to bottom. You can trim the excess later. All right. And now we're going to fold it over the other way. And this one, we want to make sure that we fold and glue so that the fold is folded. You know, lots of words. And I'm just going to put some glue on here because this has to get done at the same time. All right. So we are folded. This gets glued, folded. So we have room for that fold. Okay. Otherwise it would buckle. Okay. So there we go. Now we're going to repeat the same process, but on the left side. So again, we're going to fold in 3 inches and again 3 inches. And then the remainder is what's going to go on the inside. We're going to glue down. And don't do what I did, which is go over the fold line, because that would cause a problem. And we're going to make sure that we stick this in folded and that it's going to cover, oops, what it needs to cover. Okay. So now that's stuck in the fold, and you can see you have the gap so that it'll fold properly. And then we flip it over and we're going to glue it down fold it again, only over top this time instead of inside. And this little guy gets some glue. And this literally is the most complicated piece out of the whole group. So now we're going to fold that up and make sure that you have it folded when you flip it over the top so that that fold is nicely there. Okay, so there's your flip flap book. We just need a little piece for in the center. We're going to leave, can't leave that right now. So let's choose a piece of paper we want to complement both of those with. And I didn't pull the paper out in advance. So let's see. This looks like it might work. All right. So this paper, which is the back of the presents, I'm not going to use, well, do I want to use the presents? No, I don't. So I'm going to use a piece of this, which is should be 2 and a bit. So it's 2 3/8 by the same length, which is 4. This looks like 4, but we're going to make it 4 1/16 just to make sure we have enough. So 2 3/8, I think I said. Yes, 2 3/8. Two and 3/8. There we go. By 4 1/16, just to make sure we have enough. And that little piece can go to the side. And this is going to get folded longwise. Make sure your folds are nice and even and lined up. There we go. And now when we glue this in, we're going to make sure that it covers everything. Okay. It looks a bit crooked. So I'm going to start on one side just because it's looking on my paper like it's a bit crooked. And I just want to see how I can adjust that. So if I put that there, yeah, that's going to work. Okay. I just have to refold it into the fold there, and it's fine. So now I'm just going to finish the gluing. Sometimes you get things, they're not absolutely folded perfect from manufacturing. There we go. All right. Okay, so that's our piece finished. We can trim it later. We don't need to worry about trimming, but what we do need to worry about is getting our pinholes. So, and this is why I'm saying that you might want to just watch from here on in. So you need to align, once you've got your 1/16 of an inch mark, you're going to measure down a 1/2 inch and then put a hole for every single line. So you should end up with 10 holes or 11 holes, 11 holes, and the same a 1/2 inch later. So a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch. And then this is centered more or less. I can see already it's a little bit longer, but it doesn't really matter. This first is going to be just say 2 inches. So the first row here is going to be 2 inches, and then a 1/2 inch will give you the second row. Okay. So I'll explain, I should probably be closer. So 1/2 inch in, and then a 1/2 inch over, 1/2 inch in, and then a 1/2 inch over. on each of the lines. So I just drew a line at those points, and then where they crossed, I poked a hole. I have a little pokey tool, but you can use anything you have. You just want to make sure it's thin because 1/16 of an inch is not very big. And then this one is 2 inches in from the bottom all the way across, and then a 1/2 inch up from that all the way across. And what you're going to do is center your folded piece. And this is just the easiest way I find to do it. To make sure everything lines up, I'm just going to go in with my pokey tool. Actually, I'm going to go in this way with my pokey tool. And just poke a hole in the spine. All the way down. Oops. Sometimes it'll give you a hard time. You might need to lift it up. There we go. Looks like it missed the paper on the inside. Oh, that's okay. Once I get it on the outside, I'm good to go. Yeah, it slipped down the paper, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to make sure I've poked right through the spine. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I have my holes all ready to go. I have my twine. And I have a needle somewhere. Oh, there it is. And I didn't take my usual large darning needle because it will make a bigger hole. So I took a tapestry needle or an embroidery needle. And this thread is twine, but it will work if you have embroidery thread too. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is find your center hole. And we might have to poke that through there. So it's going to go there, 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 and there. Okay. So I'm going to come up in the second hole from the bottom. No, I'm going to go down in the second hole from the bottom. So that means I have to get this guy and put that in the second hole from the bottom because I need to have some thread on the inside hanging out for a knot. Whoa. It's a little bit wonky the first time you do it, but afterwards it comes together just fine.
Kris, then, you're not on camera. There you go.
And then I'm going to go into the bottom hole. This is just to get my first stitch. Okay. So now I'm going to pull that tight. Until I have just enough to do a double knot. So I go under once. Oop. And under twice. There's my double knot. Doesn't matter if that's loose because the rest will be tight. And I'm just going to trim that. And then from here, I go into that hole, the middle hole, making sure I can see what's going on my spine. And up. Wiggling it through. And down. Checking that I go through the right hole. There we go. and up through the final hole. There we go. All right. And then this, I'm just going to run through and make a knot. Make sure that the thread is tight. There we go. Just make a double knot again. So I'm sticking it under, pulling it up through, and pulling it tight and trim. And that is the hardest part of the book. Okay, from now on, easy peasy. All the rest of them have the exact same measurements, and it's what you decide to do with them. I have been sometimes putting the hole in there, but you have to do that with a separate hole cutter because your hole punches aren't going to allow you to get into the paper to get that hole. But if you don't have a separate, independent hole cutter that you can cut that 2-inch circle with, you can just cover it over. You don't even have to worry about that. So I'm just going to spread out these guys sort of random, well, not really randomly. Let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and maybe 1, 2. There we go. So this is kind of the order I'm looking at for going inside my book. And the measurements for these are all the same. Or one is slightly different, this one here, because we have to get a longer piece of paper. All right, so I'm going to find my next piece of paper.
Kris, sorry. Before you go on, can you talk a little bit about the paper that those pieces are made out of? Could you do inking on there? Could you do other techniques as well? Can you just talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, you can skip the whole process of covering this entire thing, except maybe the cover, by doing your own coloring of each of these. The only trick is going to be how you're going to get this stuck into the spine. So you could do that with washi tape. So you could stick thick washi tape, and then the washi tape that's left over is going to be the thing you sew into your book. But you need to have some sort of a tab, regardless of how you put it in the book. In this case, the paper is going to be wrapping, and before we glue it in, we're going to sew the wrapper into the book and then glue this into the wrapper. Whereas, like I said, if you paste this or use, what was I playing with today? Any kind of stenciling, any kind of distress inking, anything you want to do to this, stamping, watercoloring. It's a nice heavy paper, so it will hold whatever technique you want to use. The only thing you have to remember to actually physically get it into the book is to make sure that you have a tab on it. If you're not going to stick it on a piece of paper that has a piece for a tab. So you could decorate it and then stick it on a piece of paper and then put it in your book. You just need that tab piece. Am I clear, Sherry?
Yep, thank you. No, I just didn't know what the weight of the paper was like. Would it withstand?
Oh yeah, it'll stand any of your mixed media. It's it's like easily 110 paper. It's very thick.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, where was I? Oh, I have this extra one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have the right number. So all of these are basically the same size, except for this guy. So we're going to start with this guy. He's longer. So the measurement for this is 5 5/16 wide and 6 3/16 tall, because you want the flap, right? So let's do that cut first. And this paper doesn't work for it, but this paper works perfectly for it. So we're going to put our paper in at, we need 6 3/16, more or less that much. And I need 5 5/16. I hope I cut that the right way. Oh, I did. Whew. So you have to cut the longest side is going to be your fold over side. So you want to make sure that gives you the fold over number. So now I'm going to fold this and make sure my folds are nice and aligned. Oops, that's not nice and aligned. Got to pay attention to the cutting. The cutting is very important to make sure everything gets lined up properly. There we go. Okay. Now this literally covers your entire pocket. Okay, but we need to customize it. So we are going to simply trace up here on the inside and fold this. Oh, we didn't even need to do that. Well, yeah, we do, because the front side. So this is the back side with our flap, and our front side, make sure we have it nicely aligned. Our front side is going to finish across the top with a circle cut out of it. Okay, so all we're going to do is use our scissors, and I think we might even be a bit taller than we need to be. Yeah, we need to move that 1/16 of an inch down. So that line I drew to represent this part of the folder should be about 1/16 of an inch less than what the outside edge is. There we go. So I'm going to cut that across. You can do it with a ruler and X-Acto knife if you want to be perfect. And then this measurement, I'm going to find the halfway point, and I simply will do it using the folder itself. And I'm coming down to see where my circle starts for that cutout. And then I bring my cutter, my circle cutter in, and I line up the dots I made, the very tiny dots that you can hardly see, with the edge of the circle punch. So I've lost my, oh, it's right in the red. It's in a dark spot, so I can't see it too well, but it is there. Okay, that goes there, and that goes there. Whoop! And now I've cut that out, and for all intents and purposes, it should mimic the shape. So when I get that glued down, it does mimic the shape. Now, I'm not trimming this just yet because I'm going to trim it once I've got it glued down. So this piece can come off out of our way. And keep all these little pieces because you can use those to fill spots, to use as tabs and tags. All right, so this is all going to go like this. Wow, it's working out so perfectly. This one I haven't made yet. This was in my brain. So it's good that it's actually working. I'm sure I'll figure out other ways to do it. the more I do it. Okay, so we're going to stick this one on there first. There we go. Look how nicely that fit that center section there. Okay. And then we're going to...
Kris, do you need to stitch it into the book first?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes, it has to go stitched into the book first. Oops. That would have been problematic. All right, so we're going to get our pin. And I think I'll do it in the first hole. That gives me a little bit of room. Or you know what? No, I think I'm going to do it right up against. So this is the same height when it's all folded over as this group of pages is. So you're just going to align it and poke your holes like you did the last time through the paper. It's a little tricky. Okay. All right, there's my holes. Get my string. Put it in the second hole from the end. Let's just double punch those because we put paper on it. Okay, second hole. Oh, sorry, it was down the second hole, not up the second hole, because you need your little bit of string left over. And your knot. Oops, don't cut the other end. There we go. And now this is going to go up through here. Oh, you know what? Sorry. Should have done that knot all together with the paper. So we're going to go down through the paper. So down through the second hole in the paper, down through the second hole in the book, and up through the first hole in the paper, or up through the first hole in the book. And if you can't see it, pull it out and go up through that first hole when you can see it. There we go. There we are. Tie your knot. There you go. And then we go down through the middle hole at the bottom. Up through the middle hole. Down through the, I miss a hole. I did miss a hole. I'm going to guesstimate where it should be. There it is. too much thread. There we go. There we go. There we go. And then up through your last hole. Little fiddly. Actually, get it as tight as you can get it. And then go up again. Sometimes it's a little easier with embroidery floss because it's slippery. Twine can be a little less. All right, now we glue in. There's our guy. I'm going to take this little piece off. Now I got to poke a hole here. There we go. Putting it right to the bottom of the paper. There we go. Flattening that out. And now we're going to fold the two pieces together. And I'm closing the lid and folding the top over the lid. There we go. And now I can trim the lid. So this process is the same process you use for every page. Okay. Need my fancy little scissors with the pointy tips. There we go. All right, so there is another page. So this is our flip flap book, and we have our pocket. Now you can fill the inside of that with another piece of scrap paper. You could take some of this and just cut the shape and plop it down below. I'll show you what I mean by that. So if this was big enough, you could just fill in that, or you could cover the whole top and bottom. But I would leave a space between the inside flap and the inside of the pocket so that that fold doesn't get thick and pop up. All right. So this one, I would just cover it. It's simple, same back and front. This one, what I would do, I can show you this one very quickly. Grab another piece of paper that we haven't used yet.
Just to give you a time check, Kris, we are at 9 o'clock right now. So.
Okay, give me 5 minutes just to show you this one. And then that is everything you need to know to finish the other pieces, because this one
sounds like a plan.
We're not going to put a hole in it. We're just going to punch out the tops. And this one, we're just going to do something a little bit different with this piece here because it's a pocket. All right, so the same shape or same measurement. It is 4 1/8. Well, this one's slightly smaller. So the pockets that have the flap are the bigger ones. This is 4 1/8 by 6 3/16. There's no direction on this, so I don't have to worry. So I do need to know that my length is going to be on the horizontal. So 6 3/16 and 4 1/8. I'm going to fold it in half.
Kris, can you come up just a little bit? There you go. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, there's 4 1/2. Now I know, oh, it's a little bigger than I thought. So I'm just going to measure from the bottom, make sure my bottom is covered. I know that I need to make a cut here. And I'm just going to line up that so I can mark the same place on this side. And I'm going to make a cut. I don't have that trimmer with me, so I'm going to do it by hand, folks. Oh, I don't think I want to do it by hand. I'm going to draw a line, and then I'll do it by hand. Okay, there's, oh, helps if I join the right lines. There we go. So now I'm going to cut that across. Following my line. There we go. And now I'm going to sew it in, starting from this side. I think I'm going to save myself a little bit of stress, and I'm just going to mark my points and put my holes in. And then that way, I have a little piece of foam here I like to use to poke. And poke these guys. There we go. Get my thread. Oh, here it is. That might not be enough. You should pull at an arm's length. There we go. And I have to remember which side is going to cover the pocket perfectly. Okay, so we're going to go that way. We're going to go down through the second hole, and down through the second hole. It's being cranky. There we go. And then up through the first hole. Whoops. And up through the first hole. There we go. There we go. When it's doubled like that, sometimes it gets a little hard to play with. Okay. I'm going to tie our knot. Trim off the excess. And then we're going to go down Sorry, I have to see. There we go. And up. Okay. And down. Wants to go in the wrong hole. And up. Sorry, I'm off camera again. All right. Okay. We're going to tie our knot. There we go. Trim. And now we're going to glue. We're going to glue the full side first. Get that all stuck into the seam. Sorry. Got to get it pushed right in there. There we go. Then I'm doing the top part. Which leaves the bottom part open. And now I'm doing the bottom part. Which leaves the top part open. And so now you can see that that is a little pocket. Okay. So it is the same process for all the rest of the pages, going this way and going that way. And you can see that I had a little bit of a struggle. And it's mostly because of the thickness of the twine. So if you want to get an easier stitch, then go for the embroidery floss. It's a lot smoother. All right, so that is basically it. In a 1 hour program, that's all you're going to get. And I will finish this off with a little video and post it tomorrow, so you can see the finished book and the steps to get to the finished book. Sounds good.
Very cute. It looks, you used a lot of great little patterns there, and looks like it's very easy to customize once you get going.
Well, and you have all your little stuff that you did as fussy cutting, and in this pack there are little mini, so you don't even have to always put a photo or something. You can often use one of these instead of a photo,
or tuck it in your pocket.
Yeah.
Well, Thank you very much, Kris. Lots of great uses for those little pockets and elements from that Tim Holtz kit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now it's very easy to turn it over to all of you crafters to come up with your own creativity.
And share it.
Exactly. Please. Absolutely. All right, Kris. Well, thank you very much for tonight. And for everyone who was watching, thank you for sticking with us. Like Kris said, she'll do a post of her finished pieces, and You can see how it all turned out, but I think the steps are very easily repeatable regardless of whether you're using the pocket or the circle opening or that little envelope with the flap, and just have lots of fun with it. Christmas is still on sale, as I said off the top, 40% off until the end of the week. And we will be back here tomorrow night at 7 for What's New. So hope to see you all then. Have a good night, everyone.